All right, you're recording.
Are we broadcasting?
It does broadcast.
Yep, you're good.
It records it, it signs and get into it, but it doesn't go like on a TV station or anything.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
All right.
So it's a live link for anybody to come in, and afterwards it goes on Teams to everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good evening and welcome to the Board of Assessors meeting for May 30th. Present are all three assessors, Kenneth O'Brien, Kevin Rudden, and we welcome our newest member, David Kersey. Thank you for putting your name out there to do it. The town clerk informed me you have taken both those to be sworn in, as have I.
I have that file.
We may need a second minute. Just to let people know, we do have a posted agenda, but depending on the time we take to interview people, I may advance things further in the interim. We have two candidates who submitted applications for the principal assessor position. And one of them is here now. We've allocated 45 minutes to interview each of them. But again, if we run short in between these scheduled times, we'll move up the agenda items and go forward. So the first interview is scheduled for right now, and we have Sherry Bates is our first candidate. Sherry is currently the assistant assessor in the town of Holliston, and because I am her boss, I could say, quite frankly, I know her very well, and I have only one question to ask, and if you'd let me go forward, then I'll turn it over to you folks. And that is, Sherry, one of the things I think you'll agree, given your long tenure in East Bridgewater, is it's important that we don't become a revolving door for assessors. So I just like to ask, and I know there are many things that affect decisions, and it's hard to predict the future. But do you have an idea how much time, if you're appointed, you commit to working for Mendon?
I'm looking at working here for 10 to 12 years.
Okay, that answers my only question.
Long term.
That's what, personally, I would say that's one of my chief criteria, because as you can know, being an assessor, as I know, it takes you 2 or 3 years to really get the measure of the community when you do it. And I don't want turnover like every 2 or 3 years with somebody on that. I have no further questions, so I'll let you gentlemen toss it up.
Hey, first of all,
I'll be the timekeeper.
you'll be the timekeeper, huh? Okay, well, welcome, Sherry. And at the same time, I'd like to publicly also welcome our chief, our new member, Dave Kersey. Thank you for putting your name out there.
And it would help.
All right. So now,
And by the way, beating me in write-ins.
I don't know what the count was.
Well, we both were written in on both lines,
Okay.
but even if you add up the 2 lines together, he uphold me, handled it.
By how many to how many?
I don't know.
Oh, see, okay.
I just looked at,
Well, I would
I
get
don't
that for the
care.
next time.
The goal was met, we both got elected.
Okay, Sherry, if you'd be so kind to tell us all about yourself, please. We'll start off that way. We'll break the ice.
Well, Sherry Bates, I hail from East Bridgewater. I have been working in the assessing field for 35 years now. 33 of those years were spent in the town of East Bridgewater, and the past just shy of 2 years I've been in the town of Holliston in the position of assistant assessor. Through East Bridgewater, I worked my way up from senior clerk, principal clerk to assistant assessor, and have obtained my Massachusetts accredited assessor's certification through the MAAO. And I keep up with that with going to meetings and classes and everything to keep abreast of new rules and regulations that are coming out from Department of Revenue, and find out little nuances that other cities and towns might be doing to do their personal property or their real estate get some ideas as to how can I better myself to do inspections and things of that nature.
Okay, good. Now, so since you, you said you lived in East Bridgewater?
Yes.
Is that a long trip?
It's about an hour's drive, but
Hour's
that's really nothing to me. I drive across the state for my fraternal organization, so driving an hour to
Okay.
work is nothing.
It's like one cup of coffee.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. I also see down here that you picked up in very recently from Southern New Hampshire University, a Bachelor of Science in Geoscience,
Yes,
GSI.
yes.
Wow, that is really cool. I haven't seen too many of those out there. As I know and you know how important that is. So why don't you tell me how that is going to, how you're going to be able to use that in your job?
Well, with using GIS mapping, I would be able to plot out the neighborhoods, plot out sales to show maybe where high-end sales are being, with what area of town have the high-end sales versus maybe mid-range to low-range sales. So you can, I would be able to make a map that plots all of that information out that would make it very visual to say, okay, all right, this side of town is selling very well versus this side of town. So what's the difference? What's going on here that this is selling at, 300,000-400,000 more than what this area is. And then we can make, if things need to be made to differentiate them, whether maybe neighborhoods need to be tweaked or something like that to identify that this is a higher end neighborhood than this one.
Okay, so saying that neighborhoods need to be tweaked, what's your definition of that?
In your neighborhoods, you're looking at how properties, are they similar? So your newer neighborhoods might be all in one neighborhood, your newer construction, because they're the same year, maybe it's the same builder, same style home, and that's gonna identify that as a neighborhood.
Okay, you were gonna,
I was just gonna say, if, one of the things we're looking at doing in Holliston right now is I've been asked to realign our neighborhoods. And if we had GIS, we were going to punch in and have what I call light up, I call it lighting up in color, as opposed to now trying to figure it out on a one-dimensional map and go this street and that street. We're gonna light up things by the age of the properties, the style, and look at it visually to say, we have a traditional neighborhood of like 100 homes here that were all built at the same time by a developer, but we don't have the land in Holliston to do giant subdivisions. So we have a cul-de-sac here and a cul-de-sac here. And we wanted to say why various cul-de-sacs around town make a neighborhood. They're all built in the last 5 years. They're all the same style. They're all the same age. They're all the same price range. You can show it visually to people and they get it.
Mm.
So that's what, had she not applied here, she would be.
yeah, okay. Do you go out and do listings now?
Yes, I do.
So for anyone listening, you want to tell us what the function and the process is?
Sure. So in order to determine values on property, we need to go out and physically see the property. I will take the building permits. So I will go out to the new construction, I will measure the exterior of the building, marking down what the story height is, what type of roof it is, what's the material used on the roof, what's the material used on the exterior of the building. are there any, open frame porches or enclosed frame porches, decks, things of that nature? Those are all gonna get measured and marked on, the card as I'm drawing. Then I try to get into the property in order to see how many rooms are there, how many bathrooms, are there any fireplaces, finished basement? Is it a walk-up attic or pull-down stairs? Because that will make a difference as to how the property is valued. And then take a picture of it in order to bring everything back to the office to input it into the camera system.
Good. And that's the fun part of the job, right?
Yes.
Now, having said,
I was just gonna say, if I could, Ken, just for the chief's benefit, CAMA is computer-aided mass appraisal software. It's foundation of every assessor's office.
Sorry.
lingo.
Now, we use the acronym, but
Yeah.
I wanna make sure he knows.
So, one of the things that we deal with in the assessing world is subjective opinions. And how would you describe those subjective opinions in valuing a home? What are those things? It's not a trick question.
Yeah,
I am being a little vague.
subjective. You're trying to make your best determination as to what is the quality of this home? Is it average? Is it above average? Is it excellent? And especially with new construction, when you're entering into, onto the property, I'm looking at, what is the interior looking like? Do they have crown molding or, maybe some high-end finishing, for, countertops and, kitchen appliances, cabinets, things of that nature. So you're trying to make your best guesstimate, really, as to what is the quality of this home. And that's the information that would then be put into the system along with the sketch in order to derive added value for that property.
Sure, and we gotta get that as correct and right as possible, because
Right.
otherwise it will throw a huge deviation in the value.
It will,
With
and
what is historical in the town you're in.
yes,
Because you and I have discussed different towns look at things different ways.
That's correct.
And you want to stay within what the town,
Well, that's why,
Historically,
that's
yes.
why I asked the question, and how do you do it? And I've heard, the words that I hear are the way that, it is done. Of course, that's once you're getting used to understanding, as Kevin just said,
Mhm.
what has the historical grading been in town? Because if you're used to, I'll pick on Boston. If you're used to a old neighborhood in Boston, it's gonna have, certain gradings versus a town in Sudbury versus Mendon. Each one of them would have three different systems in there. What is that worth? What is that graded at? And we go from there. So
yes.
that's a cool thing. That's a cool thing. Do you have any questions for us? I'm just mixing it up here.
Yeah.
Throw a question at us.
Is there any GIS at all in the town that is used?
Yeah, we currently have
Mapping.
Central Mass Regional Planning, CMRPC, they do our mapping.
it's a print only though.
And it's print only? Well, who's on the web?
Well, the maps are online, but you cannot do the manipulation that Sherry was talking about earlier. You can't, we lack the software internally
Okay,
To
so-
take that data and translate it into graphic maps and things
You know,
like
like
that.
CAI, did you use CAI over there?
No, I wish I did, but
Oh, okay.
I'm stuck with who I have, but
Okay.
when you have the software in-house, you can take the data that exists and manipulate it into graphic pictures and stories and images. We
Sure.
don't have that yet.
No, okay, I knew
But
that.
our current assessor did get the grant to do our mapping on computer for the first time
Yeah,
and let it be available to the public. So that's the stage we're at.
sorry.
So we have the grant, would we move forward with it?
No, we did.
We didn't get the grant,
We
we
did.
get it.
No, we used the Gene filed for and got the grant.
So now we.
That let us get to online. The next phase would be to buy a license, well, first to have the computer hardware to run it, to buy what's called ArcGIS software, from a company called Esri, ESRI, to acquire that and then use the data that's online to manipulate it and begin to produce things. So if we had that in-house, Pete, you, for example, you could then, if we have a trained person, you could then ask that person to say, these are where my house robberies are. I want to show people where they're occurring over town. And you could literally walk into any board or committee and say, this is where they've been over the last year. Or you could say, literally, this is where all the homes at over $900,000 in value are, which we're starting to get in Mendon. Or this is where the oldest neighborhoods are. And you could begin to make graphical pictures with it. So that's the next step, and that's probably, the software is very memory intensive. You can do it over line, but I happen to know, in exploring it, the license for the person to do it is only about $400 a year. $700, and then you need the hardware to run it on. So you're really talking an outlay with the proper PC of about, I would say about $2,000.
That leads to my questions.
Yes.
Do you feel comfortable taking on that project from Gene on and running with it as a department head here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Have you implemented anything like that previously or at Bridgewater?
I had begun to implement something of that in East Bridgewater prior to, my going to Holliston.
Okay.
And then I've worked, with, different department heads, discussing GIS and what can or can't be done, on what is currently there.
If I could add it again, it's tough because I'm what Sherry helped me cost out a proposal that went forward to the town administrator. The select board in Holliston rejected hiring a full-time GIS person due to cost and benefits. We were going to be at the annual town meeting earlier this month with a proposal to add department by department and see if the departments, once you have that master program I talked about at 700, for $100 a year, you can add department by department to read it and ask for things.
Yeah.
And due to the tight budget, we got bumped to waiting to what free cash is the fall. If there's sufficient free cash, the next step in Holliston would be to buy the hardware and software, put it in the assessor's office, get it going. And then in the fiscal 26 budget, they were gonna ask each department if they could to add it in. So it's not up and running yet. It would have been.
The short money, that's an important role in town. I'm surprised that towns just don't float it quick and do it
We
with
were-
the money we spend.
We literally were making $100 cuts to meet a balanced budget this year. Literally.
It's tough.
And then the school department, the day after the town meeting, or this week, 2 weeks after the town meeting, popped up with a very, very large override request that we're coping with. So nobody's looking at free cash.
Okay,
A whole nother issue. Go ahead.
what other, let's look, Gateway. Have you dealt with Gateway yet? Gateway is a DOR system for reporting stuff into the state.
I have, and I've been, working with Kevin, regarding, the, some of the new forms. And then I also attended DOR did a webinar
Yes, they did, yeah.
on the new MDM form, which, the MDM one form, you, are putting in how many exemptions, from the different categories that you, gave out for that particular fiscal year. And the state reimburses you, a certain amount, for those exemptions. So I think DOI did 2 or 3 webinars, or webinar and I think one of the MAAO meetings.
Yeah.
Regarding this new form, because they reformatted it. So I've looked through that and everything to see how it's now working.
If I could,
Yep.
David, MAAO is the Mass Association of Assessing Officers. It's their state organization, and they run, I would say, 80 to 90% of the training.
A subsidiary of MMA?
No.
Of the separate.
We, goes back about 30 years. We are partners with the MMA, but we are not included in MMA.
Okay.
Feels like cousins.
Yeah.
They're cousins, we work together when we have to, but because we're a separate 501c3 or 3C, whatever the nomenclature is, no, but I will tell you at the executive board levels, we intermesh quite a bit.
Gotcha.
Okay, so you understand all about Gateway, the LA3s, LA4s, LA this and that, and
All of
And then
the
you-
lalas, as we call them.
la, yeah, right. The new growth reports and also, how are you with budgets?
I'm good with budgets. I have worked on budgets previously in the past, helping to formulate them and bring in information as to, what salaries were going to be going up to. Was there any changes needed for maybe office supplies or other expenditures, education, things like that?
Okay.
Budgeting here isn't too hard. So one.
Say again?
Budgeting here shouldn't be too hard, it's a one-person department.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's right.
Yeah, right.
So how do you feel about working in the town where you are it, there is no one else, you're one person show?
I have no problem with that whatsoever. Look forward to it.
That wasn't a job description. I can't remember if you got that before.
Yeah, I didn't see it, but it's curious always to see how people actually truly feel about it, knowing that
Yeah.
it probably is, it's like that, it's probably gonna stay like that, I can't see it changing.
Right,
Oh, I can
yeah.
see it changing.
And I'm an awkward position, just let me explain something about her background. When I was the assistant Holliston, when I got promoted up and we put out, I was tasked by my board with making sure, because I'm nearing retirement age, that there would be a succession plan. And that everything I've done, I brought Sherry in to say, this is the budget, here's how we made it, this is the tax rate, here's the forms we have to load. So the questions you asked, I'm being silent, but she has sat with me and done all that.
Good,
The problem is we're unable to compensate her at a level she should be at.
sure, okay.
And I don't want to presume while
So-
she's looking, but I will tell you candidly, we're underpaying her by a huge factor
Sure.
right now.
Okay. Let's, budget, classification here. Have you, I'll make the assumption now, but I'll let you tell us, so I don't make any assumptions. Have you had any involvement in either the prep or the actual classification hearings?
I have, in East Bridgewater, I used to do the entire prep of the PowerPoint presentation for the classification hearing and obtaining all of the information that I was putting in on the presentation slides. The previous LA4s
Good,
and previous and
Recap.
current recap and average residential and industrial commercial values for the previous year and the upcoming fiscal year.
Have you dealt with split tax rates? It sounds like you've had some
Split?
experience with it.
Split tax rate, no. Right now, I've standardly worked with, single tax rates, but I don't feel that I would have much problems with, determining and figuring out the split tax rate for a community.
No, Gateway helps you. How about, have you had any experience, not that we have, we have a single tax rate, so that makes it easier.
Excuse
And
me,
then,
we have a dual tax rate due to the.
oh, gosh, due to the senior exemptions, to the, what,
The means tested.
means that the exemption.
For all
You're
intents and
right.
purposes,
We do.
we have a single tax rate. The residential rate changes by a penny or two due to this new exemption.
Due to the
So-
rounding.
We actually do have a single
Yeah.
tax rate.
Yeah. The small commercial exemption, have you ever dealt with that?
No, because I've never, worked in a community that had a large enough, commercial base in order to want to adopt the small commercial, exemption. And the same with the other residential exemption.
Okay. How are you with the rest of the exemption plethora that we deal with? Between the 22 veterans into the 41s and the
I-
17s?
Very well versed on all of those. As I said, did with working in the profession for over 30 years.
Yeah.
Dealing with exemptions was one of the things that I have always, dealt with, and, in talking with, individuals and explaining the different exemptions and doing whatever I can to see, are you eligible for something? Because I'm really gonna try to get you something if I could possibly do it.
I tell you, I hate being on this side of the counter when you have to give them the bad news when
Yeah,
they're just a couple $1,000
Breaks your heart when
over.
Yeah.
you're a senior,
yeah,
and you just can't give it to them,
Oh,
it breaks your heart.
Kills me.
You know, when they're struggling with a bill that in the last 5 years has jumped up to 7,000 or 8,000 a year,
I know,
and you
But
can't
that's
get
why-
$1,000 exemption,
but that's why
we have the means.
I took Gene and I went to we testified in front of the Joint Committee on Revenue at
mhm,
the State House in support of House Bill 3661, where the bill was to take a private pension plan for someone over 65 and to exempt the first $20,000 of income. Because quickly doing the math on a roughly 5% income tax, that's worth roughly $1,000. And then what's the 41 worth? Well, for me, it's $1,000.
mhm.
So that's why I felt so compelled that we go and we talk, because if I'm gonna nix you because you're a couple thousand over the income, but you're on a private pension plan over 65, that would give you $20,000 exemption, which is, it saves you $1,000 in income tax. I am waiting for them to get it out of committee, hasn't gotten out of committee yet.
Ken, if I could, I want to make sure we've got about 10 minutes left, I want to make sure
Oh, sure.
Dave gets in all his questions.
I wanted
I know-
to focus on, I just wanted to ask.
I know we're asking all the assessor technical questions, but I want to give you an opportunity to ask any questions you have as
Yeah,
well.
I think, exactly what would be the only person there, obviously, in a small town like this, what does policy compare, are they similar, so here, you do have a lot of one-person shows, you have, two people in an office, you can have one person in the office next to you. There isn't a lot of cross-training. Have you had experience like that before, where you've just been kind of on an island without anybody helping you, had to figure it out? Because in a small town like this, you're gonna have to figure it out,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
in East Bridgewater, actually, yes. A lot of what I learned, I had to learn by trial and error, on my own. And everything. And East Bridgewater and Mendon are roughly, as far as size and population goes, that they're similar.
Yeah, Holliston's, in terms of both population and the number of assessing parcels, double.
Well, it's good to have the experience in a smaller town, because obviously it's a different atmosphere.
It's a total different atmosphere than if you're in a large community or a city or something. I much prefer this.
It's more personal, you get to know
It
her.
is more personal, you know, it's a small operation, you have a seat at the table, being a department head, you know, so you're part of the finance team.
Well, I do have a question on it. Are you used to working as part of the team in setting the tax rate with the other financial people?
Yes, and I have had experience in the past in working with the treasurer collector, the town clerk, the town accountant, in order to bring all the information together that is necessary and required for all of the forms that need to go into DOR for certification of the tax rate and everything.
And don't forget, you also are the one that writes up and signs all of the commitments and warrants. Because without a warrant being signed, the collector can't collect.
No. So all of those, the warrants and commitments need to be ensured that they're done up and signed and sent over prior to the bills being mailed.
And I could point out, in case anybody's listening now or in a replay, unlike like the planning board where you're discussing a subdivision with a developer, 99% of the work that comes before the board is done routinely by the professional assessor, and we really verify it or sign documents certifying it. And it's just the way it is, because otherwise then we'd be in here all day long doing everything. So for instance, David, at the end of the month, there are monthly reports that by law go to the accountant and the treasurer collector. We come in to sign those. The work's already been done, but we need to sign by statutory, we sign it. The tax setting work, we basically review it and sign electronically the forms that go into the state, but they're prepared by the professional staff. So just so folks know that. We don't get involved in the day-to-day as much as we do policy. Anyway, do you have more questions?
Just one. So, in this job, you're gonna deal with residents a lot more often. They're gonna come right through that front door, and they're gonna just knock on your door, and sometimes they're not even knock, they're just gonna walk in and start complaining to you. How much experience do you have, from the other two towns dealing with that? And how do you deal with that, especially if someone irate about, the house bill or something, if you found an extra sink in there, and you charge them more in their assessment?
I have a lot of experience on that. Was not uncommon for people to just walk right into my office and say, I want this, or what do you think you're doing to me? You're taxing me out of my home or something, and I will immediately, okay, let's sit down and talk about this. What is it? Okay, what's going on? What's happening? And start explaining the different exemptions to them, or, okay, well, let's look at your property record card and let's see what's going on. And I will print out the previous fiscal year and the current fiscal year and sit down with someone and say, okay, let's go over, let's see what's going on, and, was there a difference here? Okay, well, you added a finished basement to your property, and that's why you saw the increase here. Or, okay, well, the increase is just unfortunately because the values increased over the year, but I will take the time and ensure that we're sitting down, that taxpayer and I, and going over whatever questions, concerns that they may have, and make sure that they know, okay, this is how this is what I'm eligible for, I can do this, I can't do that.
I think that's it for me.
Yeah, we got 5 minutes more, you have anything?
If you were successful today,
Yes.
what would the time frame be on joining us?
I would need to give a 2-week notice to my current town in order to start, so depending on,
And if I can interrupt, we've outlined a time frame with Jean to overlap, if you remember. So as long as she could be available by after the second week of July, I know Jean has a week off from that, but the idea was to get at least a 2 or 3 week overlap. It's built into the budget. So I think the question is, could you?
That's built into next year's budget,
Correct,
25.
right, which starts July 1.
Yes.
So I think the question is better, would you be able to be available by, say, the second week of July if need be?
yes.
Or even the first week of July.
We don't have that in the budget.
We don't have that much in the budget?
No.
Okay.
We had a 3 week what the FinCon did was instead of giving us the extra money for 3 week overlap, they left the budgeted amount for Jean's salary. So we have enough to do a 2 to 3 week overlap, but no more than that. Because it is expected the new person would start slightly lower than Jean.
Oh,
And
I did not know that.
That gap would make up the overlap.
Oh, I get it, you know.
So I would rather phrase the question as, if we wanted you here by July, I believe it's July 8th.
Yeah.
That Monday, could you?
By July 8th, yes.
Okay,
Or the following week.
Oh,
The
good,
following week,
good.
yeah,
good, okay.
how,
Oh, I didn't know that.
however it
And I would
may
say-
work out with the town.
Last chance for asking us questions.
What program do you know is used for the abatements process?
The
Is
PK.
it PK, but is it also Munis that things?
The Munis, I don't know.
Our software is called, I can't remember the name, I still call it KBS, it's changed the name, your wife would know.
Springbrook.
Springbrook, which is KBS updated, it's called Springbrook. And you would need to learn at least how to look up and enter the assessing parts of that. It's any department.
They have an IT department that can help you with that. No, we don't.
Okay.
Springbrook does.
Yeah,
Right, but any new employee coming in would have to be trained on that.
okay, all right, and that's, I've always been able to pick up new software and everything and being able to use it very quickly,
With some
so.
of the KBS, but it just takes some getting used to. There's little parts to it that you just don't realize, like, it doesn't autofill if you do a report. It doesn't autofill the current year, it's still stuck on 2022, so you gotta update that, and then it doesn't update, like, you want a total, and you're asking for a total, and you assume it would go year to date, but unless you change the months in this little column on the right and put 1 through 12, it
It's
Oh,
doesn't
no
give you, so it's
different
little things.
it's no different than Munis and having idiosyncrasies you have to learn.
Yeah, it's just small stuff, because you'll go crazy looking at
You
it.
got Munis.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yes,
Everybody has an issue with the software, the financial software that every town uses. I don't know why, but
The
they all
problem I
do.
have is having the camera software made by Tyler as well as Munis is made
Well,
by
you had two pegs.
Tyler. I am so anti-Tyler that it isn't funny. Anyway,
Yeah, I'm good.
I just have a
I'm good.
closing off that. Thank you for your time.
thank you.
Nice to see you again.
Nice to meet you.
Pleasure.
And I'm gonna make a suggestion after we leave the board, but what I would like to say is you'll hear back from us within a week.
Okay.
There's some
Oh, I would
steps we
think
need
so.
to do, so,
I look forward to it.
okay,
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in, Sherry.
Thank you.
thank you.
Time to next.
Not till 6:30, so I'd like to just go over something that I haven't had a chance because we don't hold meetings outside of this. My suggestion is we have another interview tonight. I think we could, in my own mind, we could form pretty much get a preference after the two. But I'd like to suggest the following. If we have a preference, ask our HR person to then check that person's references. which is,
It's a department head, so what I would recommend, because we do it for all department heads, but I know you guys are different, you hire and assess one time, is you give it to our detectives, have them do a quick background check.
okay,
So I wouldn't even have Jay do it.
okay, do that, but also ask Jen to check the reference is for whichever candidate would prefer.
Okay.
And then wait and hold a meeting a week from tonight. The problem is, I work late Tuesdays, he works late Wednesdays. So reconvene at 5:30 next Thursday. This is my suggestion. Next Thursday and do a formal
Nope.
vote. Nope,
No can do.
all right, when,
I could do, Monday.
You-
Yeah, let me tell you, if, after this interview, I would be able to tell you through.
I'm in a weird position in that I've known both candidates for a long time.
And you can do it to it, pending a background, and give us 2 weeks.
You know,
for the
you
background.
really, you
Pending a background.
can do that, yeah.
Well, we can't post a meeting for Monday. How about the following week? My problem is every Monday is now taken up with override hell in Holliston. So Thursdays I know work for you typically. Could you do the?
Yeah, let me look at the 14th, Flag Day, 13th. I could do the 13th,
Is
but I
that-
really would like to I would like to see us make a decision, because I don't have a paralysis analysis problem.
Well, neither do I. I just want to make sure we're following all the necessary steps. That's why I said if we have a preference, let the reference be checked, let that, I mean, we can make a vote internally subject to those passing.
Well, that's just like Dave just said, yeah.
All right, all right.
That's usually how background gets done anyway, so like with the T last time, I think they did that way.
Okay, doing that.
I would make the assumption they did, because you didn't do any background checks on anybody yet.
Oh, no, I'm sure they did it last night, I didn't watch the meeting last night.
No, they did vote, and they voted
Yeah, so
to
I,
a
Greg,
number one and a number two.
Greg contacted me, and he's working on getting me the paperwork for the background, so,
Okay, well, then anyway,
the interim team.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know that.
Okay, we've got about 10 minutes left. What I'd like to do is move up a couple of agenda items. David, you can't vote on this, but can you have the minutes?
I have minutes right here. I have minutes right
You need to
here.
sign a
It
copy.
says, I make a motion that we approve the minutes of our meeting on April 18th, 24, as printed.
And I'll second that. And all in favor?
Aye.
So 2 with 1 abstaining because you weren't there. And do you have an extra copy?
Yes, I do.
The signed copy goes back to Jeannie. That becomes official. And just so you know, David, before the next step, traditionally, we appoint a chairman. Our tradition has been, we do not appoint a vice chair and we appoint a clerk.
Oh, no, it's the same.
The clerk nominally does the minutes, but in our practice, the principal assessor does the minutes, you review them, and when we take a vote, you sign them. Traditionally, we have done the member up for reelection becomes the chair. For the following year, if the chair is not available at a meeting, we've gone by seniority. Ken is the senior member, followed by me, followed by you. So you know, that's traditional. If you want to change that, speak up now.
I don't know, change it.
Okay, failing that, I would make a motion to appoint, actually, before we do that,
What are you doing?
we appoint Jean every year. She does not need to be appointed this year, because she carries over until we make an appointment. Just to make it official though, I'm gonna make a motion to appoint Jean Berthold as principal assessor from today through her retirement.
I second that.
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Okay, now we need to reorganize the board.
Well, we approved the minutes, why don't we just sign the excise?
Oh, we do have a warrant, okay. This is routine, this is a commitment for the next batch of auto excise in the amount of $119,586.75.
Okay, well, while we're also talking about signing things, you're familiar, has anybody talked to you about the the 101,
I was gonna bring that up.
okay, that you do have to take a DOR class.
Gene gave that all.
She knows it, absolutely, glad that
You
you
have 1 year to complete that.
Yep.
Until you complete it, you are not eligible to sign on Gateway. You can vote on the necessary items until you complete 2 modules of it.
Yep.
But you have a year to finish the whole thing. I have no doubt you'll knock it off.
Yeah, Jean was great, she sent everything here right away, I put it in a folder, so I'm gonna tackle that.
Yeah.
I went and got sworn in, and then I also filed disclosure, ethics disclosure too, because I'm also the chief. So there's a form I filed for that too, and it's been
And just to
put on
put,
file with town clerk.
just to put that issue to rest, although I know you heard one party saying you might have a conflict. Prior to running, I know David did check with the Ethics Commission, and I believe you have an opinion in writing that there is no conflict.
They wouldn't give me right till I was elected, so after I got elected, I called up, and they said, you know, just file this disclosure, they gave me disclosure, gave me his name. I went through the whole entire form, it's a 3-page form with the attorney from ethics, filled it all out, made the disclosure to town
Okay.
clerk, so.
Hi,
Hello.
how are you? I'm
All
sorry.
right,
I'm a
well,
little
let's,
early.
we'll withhold the vote on reading.
Oh, yeah.
No, do you want me to wait? I
No.
thought I was here.
No, we were filling in the blanks.
Oh, okay.
This is Joanne
So
Dillon.
you doing?
Hi, nice to meet you.
Jersey.
This is Nick Meyer.
Yeah, we met before.
Yeah, we have.
Yes.
So I think we'll do it.
I think the last time was up in, Boylston?
No, the last MAO meeting.
I don't remember the last meeting I was at.
At the,
No, the last time I spoke to him was in Boylston, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Okay, she was sitting on the other side of the room when we were at the college.
yes,
Oh, college.
yeah,
I
yeah.
forgot about that, it was so long ago.
But there was so many people there too.
Oh, it sure was.
Okay, again, if we can do it the way we did the other
Yep.
candidate.
Yep.
I'd like to start off by saying, again, I'm in a weird position. I've known Joanne for as long as she's been employed in Milford. I do have my one question, and I may have subsequent, if you let me ask that on the lawn. One of the things, Joanne, I think you'll agree is, although you live in Milford,
Yes,
it takes an assessor moving into a town several years to get to know the town and its buildings and its people. And our goal is to not have a revolving door in the office. So I know you can't predict the future, what happens in life and other things. But coming in for the interview, do you have an idea on how long you'd like to be in the position?
how about if I say 6 years?
That's fine.
Yeah.
Just wanted to know.
Yeah,
You know, we're looking for some longevity.
I don't like interviewing. I mean, so,
Who does?
right, so I feel like if it's a good fit, you know very quickly.
Yeah.
And if it's a good fit, why change?
Exactly right.
Good enough for me, and you live in Milford, so
Yes,
you're
and
local.
I just tracked it at 12 minutes.
Okay.
12 minutes. Oh, my goodness.
Why don't, because you
You
asked
must
the
be trapped.
longest.
And I,
Sure, since you asked the most, why don't you let me ask Dave? let
Sure,
David go.
sure, but I just want to say, 12 minutes. I thought I would had a short trip at going to Uxbridge. and-
I'm 4 now. So I've tripled.
I have the longest, I'm 32 minutes each way, in heavy traffic.
Yeah, I gave that
You
up.
all know I'm very new as an accredited assessor. I'm not seasoned like you guys are, I'm very new,
No,
but
but you hold your MAA.
yes,
What's
yes.
your number?
1422,
Oh, 95.
but,
1329.
When you get accredited, you get a number.
Yeah.
And it's yours forever.
yeah,
Anyway,
that's the number.
because you asked the most, I'd like to let David go first.
No, you go first, I'll round up at the end again like we did,
Okay, Ken,
I don't mind.
have at it.
Joanne, let's see. All right, so we already had handled the part about driving. It's a 4-minute drive or a 6-minute drive.
12 minutes.
12 minutes, I'm leaving a 4-minute commute.
Oh, that's what you said. Okay, all right. Yeah, you're right, I didn't. Anyway, that's cool. So please tell us about yourself. Fill me in as if I've never met you before and what your likes are, your dislikes, and then, of course, your professional side of things.
I have lived in Milford for 27 years, raised my daughter there. I have a husband. I'm very active in the boosters in the high school when she was going through it. I've been a town meeting member for 20 years.
Just, you know, they have an elected town meeting member in Milford.
I know.
Open meeting. Well, you might not know.
It's weird.
It is weird.
You have to go
Well,
out campaigning.
I was an elected town meeting member in my previous town too, Randolph, so.
Yeah, I love to cook, I love to read, I love football and hockey. And I've been at the town of Milford, it'll be 9 years this October. And I started as a clerk,
All in the assessor's office.
all in the assessor's office. I worked as a legal assistant, so I did know about deeds and MLCs and all that, and so Jen thought I would be a good fit when she hired me. And after doing it for a couple of months, I said to her, can I take the class? And so I did. I was one of the first ones to do 101 online. And I just started taking classes and
Mr. David, Jen is Jen Star, the assessor for time. We all talk inside sales.
and I just started really, I guess, liking it for a better word, or being good at it.
Yeah, kind of interesting that us, I guess you could almost say us geeks, you know, we're number crunchers, we really like it.
I like a puzzle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now, I look at the job that way too, like I'm solving puzzles.
Yeah.
And helping people.
yeah, I like a puzzle.
So, okay, so you've been there 9 years,
It'll be 9 years October, yes.
and 9 years. So has Jen been there the whole time? Yeah,
Yes.
since she hired you?
Yes,
Okay, and your job title there is
assistant to the assessor.
assistant to the assessor. And is that, do you go out and do data work?
I have, but we have our own data lister.
Oh, yeah, somebody
So-
else.
Yes, so she goes out and does it. I have done it when either she's been out sick or she's got booked 2 appointments at the same time.
Yeah,
I have gone out and done it. I went out with our original data lister before. So it was kind of like we were all cross-trained.
mm-hmm.
You know, Becky.
Yes.
With your daughter.
Yes.
Okay, so does that really sort of make you like the office manager kind of thing? That you're controlling what's going on in the office, or is it literally just the assistant to the assessor?
I don't say that. I don't think I'm the office manager.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if Jen's not there, obviously I run it. I try to limit what we leave on her desk. I try to take everything off her desk. I feel like every time somebody asks a question when she's not there,
So,
it's good for me to.
Yes.
Although your title is assistant two, which is different than being the assistant.
Right.
Are you in fact functioning, forget the title for a minute. Are you in fact functioning as the assistant assessor?
Yes,
Okay. I think that's
yeah,
important.
I agree with you, that's why I asked it. So,
Because assistant two tends to mean you're like an assistant,
yeah, right,
not the assistant assessor. That's why I want to clear it. So you know, everybody, town has different job titles that are baked in forever.
right.
What do you call your secretarial person now?
Executive assistant.
Right. But you have, I just clarified, but you have a lieutenant under you if you're,
Yeah.
who runs the department.
Yeah.
So you functionally run the department if Jen is on vacation.
Yes.
Okay, that's important to
What's
know.
your department made up of? So you have a principal and then
We have a principal, we have me, we have a clerk,
oh, you have a clerk.
And the data
Yes.
lister.
and a data
Yeah,
lister.
so it's
Well, they're like 4 or 5 times our size.
Yeah, we have about 8,900 parcels, and you guys have about, what, 52?
8,900.
But it's a town of 30.
That's just residential.
Yeah, no, I'm
Yeah.
just putting.
And I actually
With a huge
spearheaded the department getting a vehicle for inspections.
You got one? Is that new this fiscal year? Or do you have
Yeah.
one now?
We have one now,
So you got it in fiscal 24?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
Electric?
No, I didn't want electric. I don't want a hybrid, I want to put gas in it.
And it's not an old cruiser?
It's a brand new 2024 Ford Escape,
Wow.
and we paid,
We're drilling over here.
I worked with the guy from there's no local dealers on the contract list.
Right. So who'd you deal with?
It was a guy in Marlboro Colonial.
Oh, yeah.
They're in Plymouth, but they shipped it to them Marlboro for us. We
Yeah.
got it with less than 100 miles on it.
We have
And I
a
paid less than
vehicle that-
25,000.
that my assistant drives.
We got less than 25,000.
Can you negotiate for us?
So that was good.
Wow, okay, very cool. All right, so the idea is, motor vehicle exemptions.
Yes,
You operate them now, you run them. Are you the one responsible for totaling them up at the end of the month and reporting any?
no, I do all the month-end reports, but our clerk does all the motor vehicle. I
Okay.
have done all the motor vehicle, and that's what I started on.
Yeah, but you gave it to somebody else.
Yes, when I got
Good,
promoted.
good. Okay, so you.
Yeah, INES forms a list,
INEs, forms of list, good.
and I work on all our exemptions. We have over 400 veterans, seniors, blind.
Wow, I
Well, yeah, and any idea what the value of that is that you do exempt? Just a stab in the dark.
Stab in the dark, we just have to state back for 76,000 for veterans. That's
Just for veterans.
B's, C, we have an F, and we have A and F.
Who did the MDM?
And did you say D? You don't have?
We have a
D?
C, and we have an F, E, and small A and F, the paras.
Oh, so you don't have any gold star?
No,
Okay.
no,
Do you
We
do
got
the
four.
MDM form and the veterans form, or did you?
Jen and I both did it.
Okay.
I didn't hear you on that.
I asked whether she or Jen, basically she said both, the MDM one and the annual veterans. form.
Okay.
And we're just doing the end April.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So you have experience doing that.
yes.
You're-
so there you go. That,
Have you done the other forms on Gateway or just Jen did them?
Jen does them, but I watched her do them all last year.
Okay.
I sat over her shoulder.
okay.
And I do know you co-present with her at the classification hearing.
Yes.
Do you prepare that?
No,
She.
Jen has a blanket one, so she just inputs her numbers.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she does all the calculations, you do the presentation.
No, she does the presentation.
Well, she does the
We
presentation.
work on the calculations together.
Okay, all right.
But you've given it with her for the last couple of years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a fun night. Oh, come on, that's a fun night. Do you guys, have you gotten involved in the, hey,
Hi.
We just wanna pay the cash bill, but is that,
It's
They're
not,
are they open till seven?
no,
They're not open in the evening?
I
at all,
thought it's Thursday night, they don't.
No.
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 They don't.
the, any nights?
Town hall hasn't been open nights in years.
8 to
Since
4.
before COVID,
Well, I mean, not before COVID.
Seriously?
yeah.
That's so weird, because I swear to God, instead of Thursday, I'll just work.
No problem. Take
Good to
care.
see you.
Have a good night.
But that's still, yeah, I know both of them.
Yes,
From Scouts.
yes, I know, yeah. So,
Now we have
It should say-
where was I going? Where was I going?
Gateway. Tax setting.
Fun night. Yes.
Well, I don't know, let's pick up someplace else.
Okay.
We talked about the exemptions, we talked about motor vehicle, abatements.
Yeah, I've helped Jen with abatements. What, I mean, as far as what?
I don't know, what's your involvement in the abatement?
Yeah, I help gather information with her. We've discussed it,
Yeah,
like why we're doing some things, why she wants to do it, why I think we shouldn't do it. And then we kind of find out the puzzle of why we should and look back.
and you have a board of assessors on
Yes.
there, right?
Yes.
Three, and,
Elected.
how, they're all elected, okay,
Yes.
and how is it working with them?
It's fine, they're not really, that's the one thing I was gonna ask, they're not really involved in day-to-day. They come to a meeting once a month,
Right.
and we have the agenda, we have their monthlies that they look at, but it's stamped. Any bills they look at, they're already been stamped. And they just look them over, but they're really not involved in the day-to-day. Now, how are you involved in the day-to-day?
No,
Really?
No?
no, other than speaking.
I don't plan to be, that wasn't the commitment Kevin signed me up for.
David's our police chief,
I know, I remember him.
full-time, and this is his first meeting.
Oh, welcome, mine too.
The,
Yes,
no, I mean, if we have, speaking from my point, if we have full confidence in the principal assessor, to me, it's we're an advisory board,
Okay,
or, you know, we ask questions,
Oh, yeah.
we do.
We get copies of these things, so we
Right.
review it.
Right, historically, we go out and do the abatement inspections, with a recommendation from the principal, but historically, I rely on the principal. We'll get an email that says, there's a commitment to sign, the monthly reports to sign. And quite honestly, if I'm really busy, I'll say, you have my authority email, I'll say, you have my authority to stamp. And I don't commit, I like to personally sign commitments, just because they're commitments.
Right,
And I will say, I have a key to the office, I will say, leave it on your desk, I'll stop by on the way home and sign it.
okay.
For him, it's walking across
Yeah.
the courtyard, but, other than that, I trust the principal assessor. If we have faith in the assessor, and since we're now to hire one, Jean was here for 30 years, I hired her into the building when I was a select board member, there wasn't an issue there. But if we're hiring you, to me, that means I have trust in you. It means you tell us where you need us to be involved. If it's, going to the FinCom to present a budget, other than that, I'm not gonna come in here in the day and get involved in your face. That's what we pay you to do.
Now, how do you work, if Jean has to go out for inspections, how do you work the office if she's the only one there?
We contract them out, but if she has to go out, she closes the door. And there's a little thing on the doors that the office.
It's a one-person office.
Right, that's what I mean.
Okay, there's a little clock on the door that says, I'll be back at. The phone goes to voicemail. Her door says, I'll be back at, there's a little clock hour, you put it, let's say she's going at 10 and she thinks it's gonna be an hour, I'll be back at 11. Typically, they'll knock on the door next door, which is the treasurer collector, and if they have a message to leave, they'll leave it there, or they'll say she'll be back at 11, or they call and leave a message, or they send an email. Having worked in Western Mass, the people out there are quite used to part-time offices.
Okay.
This isn't part-time, but they're quite used to saying, the assessor's out in the field, well, I'll have to come back, or they leave a message with somebody else to town hall.
Okay,
Well, it would also be the same thing if we're going to a conference
right,
from here, and you're going, you just put a sign up a few days, maybe a few days beforehand, that said, hey, we'll be closed on such and such for conference.
And in that case, Gene, historically, which I approve of wholeheartedly, Gene will send a note to the other financial officers and the board that says, for instance, she took today as a vacation day. And she said the office will be closed on this date. And I don't ask why, she's earned her vacation, and everything gets done, I don't interfere. So you do that. If she's working from home, you put on, the note will be, I'm working from home tomorrow. It's a small town, you have to do that. But as long as the other people in town, she always does the clerk,
So she doesn't really work from home.
She does, she answers questions.
She does, on days that she's not scheduled to be here.
What she does is she reads her email from home on a day she takes it, that's just her work ethic. And she'll listen to the phone and she'll respond if it's, a major issue. But typically she'll notify the town clerk, she'll notify the treasurer collector, finance director, which is one person.
so they all work together, the department heads, it's easy flow.
Well, you gotta talk.
I know that,
Yeah,
but I'm
yeah.
saying, some butt heads
That's the treasurer collector's office,
Okay.
their window to pay is when you come in, that's
Right.
the door, okay? The assessor's office door is right on the other side of that wall. He can see, if the door is open, you can look out and see who's there. For instance, if the treasurer collector staff is at lunch and somebody wants to pay, she might take the payment until they come back.
Okay,
Or she'll say they're not back until 1. It's very collaborative.
Okay.
If somebody wants to be an
that's what I wanted
assessor,
to know.
that staff will go, she's out today, she's back in tomorrow.
Okay,
She went through a medical issue a couple of years ago where her time was random. Everybody in the building would say, she'll be back tomorrow.
okay,
It's just a courtesy. It's a small staff, most of the departments are one person or at the most two. And you just let each other know that you're not there that day when somebody asks. It might.
You're right, it's small, my one department, that I manage is more employees than probably double employees the whole entire town.
right.
So it's small. It's not
What's
a
the
lot of people.
education budget like?
In the assessors, it's healthy enough for one.
It is,
And in fact, it supports the board members.
okay,
And I will tell you candidly, he needs the most training. He needs 101 but then if he wants to do training after that, but I will tell you, both Ken and I do not have adequate budgets in our towns. And Jean has already told me she reserved funds for me to attend, the summer conference.
Okay.
Which just came out today,
Yeah.
$500. I don't have it in my budget. I'm going on here because she has enough money. There's more than enough money to go to the MAAO conferences during the year.
Okay,
And if David ever wants to pursue designation, there's more than enough to send him to classes. I don't think you need another designation, you do need to pass one-on-one.
you'll be here.
Yes.
But I will tell you candidly, there was enough in the budget here for both Ken and I to earn our designations
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
through this budget
Mhm.
simultaneously, and Jean. Those two were going together when I first came on the board.
Yeah, there were years, but yeah. We believe in education in here because it is such a succinct, technical job.
Well, you know how many conferences were, but you also know the laws change quarterly in
Oh,
the
yeah.
state.
They do.
If you don't go to those seminars, you're lost. I mean, I go to everyone. Chris Wilcock Chris Wilcock, for example, is presenting again at he's the head of the DLS that we deal with, the Division of Local Services, DOR. He's presenting again. It's summer, you know, we saw him it was Bentley or Babson we were at, Babson.
Jackson.
3 months ago, 6 months ago, and I took an online from him 2 weeks ago. You go or you get lost. I mean,
So having said that, now I'm curious as to knowing that your opinion of, there's a lot of stuff that we deal with that's numbers, it's pure numbers, you know, numbers don't lie, but
Right,
liars can figure, as they
right.
say. But there are some things that we do that are subjective to our opinion. So when doing inspections, for example, because that's the place where the subjectivity of your opinion comes in.
Mhm.
How do you grade things? How do you differentiate between grades?
I don't really do many excellence, even on a brand new build.
Okay.
I generally, if it's sales verification, you can't meet sale prices now.
Well, that would be a different,
I tend to lean, very conservatively. You know, looking at the age of the house versus have they updated the electrical, if it's an 1890 house and they have a 2000, you know, they upgraded the electrical in 2022, it's gonna be, you know, it's not gonna be typical. If, you know,
kitchens,
yeah, kitchens,
bathrooms.
quartz, granite, you know, knocking on the wood, is it solid? You know, looking at it and just touching it and feeling it.
I hate to admit.
What's,
I have a pocket knife. When I go in a house that's older than 60 years old, when I go down the basement, if it's not finished, I take the knife and go on the wood where they can't notice it, just to see if the knife goes in, to see if the beams are rotted. To tell me the construction quality.
so how would you, prevent the function of chasing sales?
You know what that means?
No,
I'm sorry, you're not familiar with the term. Chasing sales is when, a home sells for $900,000 and you have it assessed for, well, let's say, $450,000.
Typical COVID sale.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
so I got a $900,000 sale, but I only have an assessed value of
and
$450,000.
if I can't do anything with it,
Well, what would you do?
I would probably code it out. Either that or go back a couple of years. See what a house in that area may have a like sale. But you can't match a sale price, especially if it's just because of COVID.
Well, I don't know anything about, I don't know, I'm not saying anything, I have a sale, a bona fide sale,
Right.
900,000.
And I'm only saying that now because that's what we're running into with especially the beginning of this year.
Oh, yeah.
When we set our tax rate, the last 2 years, we're constantly chasing the market, you know, we're looking
Oh,
at 22 sales, you know, with 20,
Yes, so for example, what would you do if you had that?
First look at the
You-
building
you would-
permits.
You would go out and look at the property,
go out and look at it, check building permits,
and you'd look at the pictures online.
absolutely,
And
MLS
you could
is,
check the building
yes.
permits,
Which chasing the sale means is basically, without looking at it, it sold for 900.
raising the
You
value.
bring the assessment to as close to 900 as you can, even though everything in your bones tell you it's a $450,000 house. You know, the market went nuts.
Yeah,
We
but
do to
you-
meet the ratio standards.
the-
Well,
yes,
let me ask you a question.
if a house is only worth 450,
but
and
somebody paid 900.
somebody paid 900, I'm not gonna make that assessed value 900 to meet that sale price, because,
What you do in the ratio studies, or I think you contract that out to Patriot,
yes,
right? Okay, in doing the ratio studies though, you come up with, which we use what's called assessment to sales ratio. Typically, when a house starts selling higher, you get a giant gap between the assessed price and that price. And the state says you've got to adjust that to between 90 to 110% of the sales price.
And we do that every year.
We do that every year. What do you do when you have a $400,000 gap? And that's what we're talking about. Sale chasing is wrong because you're artificially inflating the assessment.
But there is an answer.
Yes.
And the answer is, since you've never dealt with it, but the answer is to make sure that all of the gradings and ratings that are in there and all of your information, so checking building permits, checking photographs, going knocking on the doors, why did it sell for so much? Because you might find out that they bought a house full of furniture. So
right,
you gotta take the furniture out.
right.
But the main point would be that if all of your ratings and gradings are correct, then the answer is you leave it alone, because it gets picked up when they do the annual assessment of, based on sales. As long as your gradings are correct, when, in our case, it's PK Systems,
Mhm.
PK would come in and they would, they look at the whole McGillicuddy and they make sure that we meet DOR standards.
And if I could offer a tip,
Sure.
if it's an outrageous difference, like the one we used, I would contact the new owner and I would ask them to sign a document telling me why they paid that much more and keep it on file. Because when we're submitting the stuff to DOR in the fall, I've been asked, why is that adjusted so much? And I go, we have a lake in Holliston. We have a guy who paid for shack on the lake. He paid $500,000. Okay, we had the thing assessed at 120, the whole property, including the building. Well, what he wanted to do was tear it down and build a mansion, which he did. I got him to tell me that, so I typed up a little note in my email and said, please verify. He sent it back and I just put it on file. And I left it where it was, and it stuck out like a sore thumb in the ratios. But I said to the DOR contact, I said, well, Jerry, I happen to have an email from the guy saying he deliberately overpaid to get the property because it's lakefront. And that question was.
See, that's obviously another issue that we deal with. It's the buyer's desire to do things that are not normal.
Mhm.
And then, of course, we're just left with our mouth open that you paid how much for what? But
Yeah, I mean,
be that as it may.
one of your board members,
Okay.
the realtor, is an old friend of mine, and he and I have discussions like, he'll go, I just sold this property on X Street in Milford for $600,000. Kevin, you know, pre-COVID, that was only worth $390. But it was bid up over a weekend to that much money. And we talk about how irrational that is. Anyway, go ahead.
Now, that's good. I think that we covered all the things, and I think that,
Did we ask point blank how you function in a one-person office?
no, we didn't ask that yet.
I'd probably talk to myself.
Well, no, could you handle being the chief cook and bottle washer, doing everything? The mailings, we do use a consultant to do the cyclical visits, The most you'd be doing is sub-sales or what I call emergencies.
Mhm.
And construction.
The building inspector's going out and issuing an occupancy permit, and you have a chance to actually get in the building, which, that is an issue.
Right,
So you go run out, and our building inspector happens to be the same one you have.
But, and on that particular note, just FYI, I would not wait for the last minute to
To do
go
it.
out there and get a walkthrough. Because of that issue that we have problems getting in, that people always say that, oh, never let the assessor in. Well, that's the biggest mistake in the world. Let the assessor in. We're not bad people, as you clearly know. So the idea is to prevent those issues, I would go on the construction visits right before they're finished.
Mhm.
So that the building permit hasn't been signed off, but I can get into the building freely and do the whole thing.
If I have enough time to staff, I like to make sure we go in at least once during the framing, because I wanna see the bones of that house if it's new.
Mhm.
You want to see
Versus,
how many LVLs they use?
yeah, well, the other thing is, there's a vacant dental office that I go by every day in Holliston. That's been vacant since the guy opened a brand new building 2 years ago. They're gutting that building right now. And the first thing I said to my person who goes out is, what are they doing? And how much money, and can we get it by June 30th for new growth?
Okay, are you a 653 town? We're not a 653 town here.
Okay.
So we don't, it's all, January 1st
Okay,
is the,
There's no reason why we
value
couldn't,
dates.
there's no reason why as a board we couldn't recommend that.
I know that, but, I'm not gonna
is
answer
Mendon
that.
quarterly taxes or, okay,
I have a
Water.
question, are you familiar with supplemental bills?
yes,
You do them in Milford,
yes.
what's your philosophy on them? We don't do them here.
Why?
We have so,
I just wouldn't touch it.
well, the assessor has said that there's so few that the effort isn't worth it, and it comes in the following fiscal year anyway.
Okay,
Yeah, but
I do them in Holliston.
there's quite a few
I
in
do-
Milford, which is
I
why.
do supplementals and 653.
I do
What
supplemental,
that
and
means
there are
is
royalties
instead
in the
of
pot
being
until
the
I change
value
the
on
procedure.
January 1st,
It's currently.
I go all the way to June 30th.
You can opt to do to June 30th and pick up a little more. A supplemental bill is, you set the values, and if a house goes up in value, a new house or an addition makes the value of the house go up by more than 50%,
From the previous year.
from the previous year.
You
Let's say a house is being built and you capture 50% of it as new growth. And it's finished in that same fiscal year after the rate was set. And if the building value goes up by more than 50%, you can issue a supplemental bill and capture that missing
The whole
value.
thing.
In the same fiscal year as waiting for it. So I get $33,000 this year. I will tell you, that was 7 supplementals. I view them as a pain in the butt, but historically in Hollis didn't do it. But they didn't explain it right to people, so I changed the whole process. So people now know. Because what happened is, you get your quarterly bill in December with the real rate, and a month later, you get a letter for a bill for $4,000, and you go, but I just paid my bill.
Right.
So I changed the phases where it now doesn't go out till May, and it's due with the June bill, but you get a letter explaining in February what it is and why you owe it. Anyway, more questions?
Yeah, no, I think that, I'm done. Do you have any questions for me, or is it stage question
I
time?
think you took one of mine, that was at work so residents, how much experience you have with residents just walking into your office, being around, because like here, they literally walk by here,
Mhm.
and they might not even knock, they'll just go in the door and start
Oh, that
talking
happens.
about the bills and go to bed.
Yeah,
You know, either
absolutely.
way.
Well, you guys have the chambers sealed off where they come in up to the
Yeah,
counter.
we had
This, if you look next door, it's, the door's open, that's the office.
yeah, we had a plexiglass up for COVID, and then they put this hollow ridiculous door in that they can't come in. But, yeah, I don't mind talking with the residents, and I like helping when, the thing that breaks my heart is when I have to deny an exemption for a senior
Yeah.
person, and they're just short by like $200. I'll go through with a fine tooth comb to see if I can say, I didn't see that, we didn't see that.
Have you ever fudged the number so they get it?
No,
Okay.
I will say
I
this,
will never do. You know what? It's a law and it's a law for a reason and it's never gonna come back to bite me in the ass.
Just so David knows, the values that you're allowed, like $1,000 is the main one. We haven't upped it. What's 500, most towns have up to 1,000. What's 41 city?
1,000, starting at 500.
Okay, it's 500, we've upped to 2,000, it's 1,000 there. That figure has not been up by the legislature in decades. There is a pending bill that lets the town pick what number it wants. But that, my personal view is, when the average bill was $2,000, $3,000, $1,000 helped a senior a lot. When you're now paying $8,000 a year after COVID values, $1,000 is nothing.
30%.
yes, but the big troublesome, which is what you're referencing and I'm referencing, and we're all referencing, is the maximum income is in the 35 to 38,000 area. And you know that if you're making, if you have.
That's for a married couple.
Yeah, if you have,
20 grand for single person.
if you have social security and a smidge of a pension, and remember, those pensions were all usually done years ago.
You're over.
You're over already, and if you can't get it, that's why.
And we have.
we-
Do the senior work off?
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
well, it's a strange way it's done, but how's it done here?
it's not through the senior director, but it comes out of our overlay.
Okay.
So what we do here is the assessors tell the FinCom and select board in budget time, we need this for overlay, and I always remind them if I'm there, plus the 20 for the senior center, but it goes in our overlay. So if we're asking for 125 in overlay,
Still only 20 grand?
we're actually asking for 145, and you say assessors need 120, the seniors need 20, that makes it 140, because they forget the senior part is coming out of there.
Right.
And that's a tricky thing.
So, okay.
I think that was we covered my other one, so.
Okay.
You're, do you have any questions?
You have one question.
Start times, the
Start
dates,
times.
all that stuff.
Oh, yeah, oh, I forgot about that. If you were successful today, when would you be able to have a start date?
Uh, 3 weeks.
Okay, we're
Would
looking,
you want me, or not me, whoever you hire, would you want them to be with Jean for a little while?
Yes.
We have 2 to 3 weeks in the budget for an overlap.
Okay.
So I like to phrase the question, if you were successful, could you be here by the second or third week of July?
Yes.
That's. And one last one. You're used to Patriot.
Yes.
We have software from PK, which is Paul Capinas and Associates. You've never used it.
No.
How good are you at learning? Well, first of all, a database is a database is a database.
I didn't know Patriot before I did Patriot.
Okay, how good are you learning the software?
Pretty good.
Okay,
You know,
okay. And I will say, unlike Patriot, they do have service, they do respond in the same day.
okay, that'd be
And they are
interesting.
located in the state.
wait, excuse me, I'm like, who?
Patriot,
Catalyst.
Catalyst.
Yeah, I have Patriot, what's the problem?
You get service answered in the day?
Oh, you darn tootin'
I'm
liar.
sorry, I'm serious.
I get service like that.
I'm
You know
serious.
people. Hey, you're bad.
I'm serious, Tyler, where the average response to a job ticket is measured in years.
No.
Okay. I think we're all set.
Okay.
Yeah,
You-
so do you have any further questions for us?
No, I think you answered everything I had written down.
It was a pleasure having you come in
Yes.
and
Thank
we
you.
learned so
Our
much more
goal
about
is,
you.
our goal is you will hear from us within a week.
Okay,
How's that? Is that
perfect,
fair?
perfect.
All right.
Thank you so much.
I hope we didn't put you on the hot seat too much.
No, why do you think you did? What question put me on the hot seat?
I have no idea, but you said you didn't like interviewing.
I don't like interviewing. I don't like it.
Well, you did well.
Why?
Yeah.
I don't know, it's kind of like a first date. You know?
I don't know, that's been so long for me.
Yeah, me too, but
Now, on the closest.
yeah,
Oh,
it's
my
like a
God.
first date, like, what do you like, you know? Should I have a salad or should I really go for the steak and lobster, you know?
Depends on who's paying.
Exactly, well, right, right.
Personally, I will tell you, I'm glad you asked about education.
That was a good question.
That was a good
Yeah, I like
from my
that too.
point of view.
Oh, good.
I viewed that
I'm
as
gonna give
very
myself a
good.
star.
Hey, no, raise your hand like this, turn the hand backwards, reach over and just once, not twice, once.
That's gonna give me 2 glasses of wine tonight.
Oh,
boy.
goodness.
Thank you, Jay.
Once you're stationary
Nice to
though,
meet you.
once you're stationary.
Once I get home, I said. Thank you.
Good night, all right,
Okay.
so,
You want to talk about candidates?
yeah, I
Or
want
do
to
you
get,
you
I want to get
be
my,
chairman first.
no, let's just keep on what we're doing, keep it going, let's not break the,
Well, let me offer my comments.
well, should you, or should you
Yes.
just hold off?
No, I want to offer them
Well,
first.
because you do that so well, offering your comments.
All right, you guys go ahead, but I'll.
You would take that from him? Come on.
No, first of all, most of our meetings are we insult each other. 'Cause we love each other. We agree to disagree on some issues. We've gone to blows on some
Oh,
issues.
absolutely,
And
absolutely,
we shake hands on some issues.
absolutely.
Well, I was gonna bring the popcorn tonight, but I thought it'd be an appropriate first meeting to sit here with bowl of popcorn, watch you guys.
You
Okay,
got it.
on a serious note, I didn't realize that I knew Joanne too.
Yeah.
And because I have an issue with name remembering,
Face, you remember.
oh my gosh, sure, faces, I saw her walk in and said, oh, I know her.
The problem is, once you go to a year's worth of assessor meetings, you know everybody by face.
Yeah.
It tends to be the same people who are dedicated to the job, go to all the meetings during the year, and sooner or later you meet them socially or whatever.
Yeah.
There's county associations that people go to.
It was.
And there's the state association. So he's in Worcester County, Mendon's in the Worcester County Association. By the way, you're an automatic member of that as a board member. If you ever want to go to a meeting, and you have to go to the annual meeting because you get
Oh,
prime rib at Sailing Cross Inn.
You know, sailing across the,
Annual.
And it's in our budget.
December, probably the first
It's
Wednesday.
early in December, you go for the dinner because it's free, it's your pay for being an assessor.
Should be
On
in
top
all
of-
these meetings, I'm gonna be home for. Should be the Chiefs meetings and MMA.
You don't
Yes.
pass up prime rib at Sailing
Nice.
Cross Inn. But you get to know each other
Yeah.
and at the county, and you see who's really dedicated to the profession, so.
And then the next thing is that we also have an effect on state policy. We influence that. And,
As a new member of the legislative committee, you know that.
yeah,
I'm an outgoing member, I actually chaired it the last 2 years. We testify on bills affecting
That's
assessors.
great.
We file our own, just as the Chiefs
Yeah,
Association.
it's just like we do too, it's a more. That's why you have these groups.
That's right.
It's not just
Very-
go and have steak,
Very
it's to actually get stuff
Ken
done.
and Jean
No,
did go in and
they
talk
work.
about one
Yeah.
you wouldn't expect an assessor to talk about. Because
and they
he
even
said,
asked me, the senator asked me,
why are you here?
what, no, the senator asked me, you have an association, don't you?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, we do, Mass Association of Assessing Officers. Why aren't they here? And I said, Senator, that is a great question. I asked the question and I have a real good answer. And that is that when I called the president said, it's a good issue. I would support that, he said, but
But they should have
MAO
told the chairman of the
cannot-
legislative committee.
cannot, they have to stick to things that affect assessing in the assessing office. And since this is really our personal opinion, and it might affect us emotionally, and she took it, it was a real good answer.
I will tell you, my personal philosophy is the veterans are entitled to every dime in legal exemption they can get, especially any veteran today because they volunteered. Most of the Korean vets are, and Vietnam vets are in their 70s and 80s.
Oh, yeah, but the Korean vets,
That are still
Volunteer?
alive. Yes. World War II guys are almost gone, unfortunately.
yeah,
We have Korean, most of the vets, they earned it in my mind. The seniors are getting whipsawed. You live in the town, you know that. Anything, my philosophy is, any exemption the state comes up with, we should be offering.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So anyway, so now getting back to this, I was impressed by both of them.
As was I.
Absolutely impressed by both of them. And I did, well, yeah, I was impressed by both of them. With the kinds of questions that we asked, between both of them, they're pretty much the same. And then,
There is a difference,
and then the way that was answered.
yes.
What was your, what?
One of them has far more experience than the other.
Oh, yeah, clearly.
One of them did offer a longer possible longevity than the other.
That she did.
That's very important to me.
It sure is. Because I get it is that she's not hot to trot to land this job and then begin looking for the next one.
One of them.
Yeah.
Well, let's, the first candidate, basically, that would put her at retirement age.
Yeah.
I happen to know that because she works for me. You know, if I supported
We
that
wouldn't
person.
hold that against her.
No, but what I'm saying though, if I support that person, I need to be publicly, I'm cutting my knees off in my own.
Well, it's very true that you are. So I guess I would like to make this comment then. For anybody that might be looking at this, either online right now, there's probably nobody there. Or they'll be reviewing it,
Yeah.
on, whatever channel it's on. I don't think that, I'm gonna say right up front, I don't think that there is a conflict of interest, because I'm sure someone might raise it.
With me? No.
Yeah, I don't believe that there is, and the reason why is conflict of interest have to show benefit. Benefit to you, benefit somewhere, and there's no benefit because you're doing the job and you're gonna have on either side of the table that you're on,
Yes.
you're gonna create a problem. Either if you don't hire one of them, we have a problem here.
If I
And
hire
if you
the
hire the other one,
her boss, who's my friend, is gonna kill me.
well, I mean, well,
Well, I will say this, my position sitting here right now is I am not here as a Holliston employee.
no, you're
I
not.
am here as an elected town
You are.
official.
Perform your
My
function.
job here is to find the best assessor for Mendon.
Yep.
And in making a vote or a motion, that's how I'm acting, even if it personally, in my day-to-day job, would hurt me.
Yeah, very true.
But I'm here for Mendon.
Well, yes, and.
Now, I'd like to hear what,
But now I do want to.
So I'm gonna rely on you for the actual assessing part of it.
Yeah,
I think I'm just here, it's like, if I had you guys for a lieutenant interview, I would ask you to point out if there was anything that you thought was not right. I thought both candidates were great. I think they both working here, they both could fit into here,
Yeah.
no problem.
you've hired more people in the last decade than we have.
well,
So
yeah.
I would just like to ask you, did either of them from just a experience on paper? I know you don't understand all the answers yet.
Well, yeah.
Did either of them stand out more than the
So
other?
our first candidate stood out, obviously, but what was the, I wrote it down here, what did Joanne say she had, when she first came in, her number, 1422. So are they both have the same certifications when it comes to
Yes,
those numbers? Okay.
All the number is in what order did you get it? He's,
Okay,
like, you gotta be a
So-
little
so
under,
she-
so at least.
no, I'm.
So Sherry probably got it.
39.
Okay.
Sherry's probably had it for a while then.
No, she only completed it about 4 years ago.
Okay, all right.
But
yeah.
there's a reason for that.
Because I didn't hear Sherry talk about her. I wanted to make sure that.
Oh, yeah, I didn't,
they're both on
I
the
didn't
same
ask.
page.
Yes, oh, yeah, they do.
If you know,
So,
knowing your number is kind of an inside joke. It's you're proud of earning it.
Yep. No, I get it.
Just so you know, to get that is, well, when we got,
There's seven.
got it, 7,
classes,
well, there were 6 4-day or 5-day classes with an exam on each that you had to pass. When we got it, it's changed since then. And then a 2-day program. And so you're kind of proud of that accomplishment.
gotcha.
And then how long it took you to do it is another bragging right. For most people, it's anywhere from 5 to 7 years.
Oh, yeah.
Struggling to look at me, someone help me out.
For people like me who are nuts, but also not working full-time, I did it in a little over 2 years.
Yeah.
But I wanted to take them back to back to back while working nights.
Gotcha.
For the people working full-time, it's harder, and you also need to have it in your budget.
Oh, yeah.
So as I was saying, I mean, they're both qualified. I mean, obviously one which, has a little more experience than the other, but there's good and good and bad in both. I mean, obviously, there's a long commute for one. It's a long weeks.
An hour drive is a long time.
She's 12 minutes away, so then that's a positive and negative on her side, but then she has more experience, that's a positive.
You
She
still
has a
working from home
negative.
today.
So that's why I'd say, I'm more here for character and to make sure that I think that fits. I think they both would fit in here. I think they both would work well in town hall and with the other departments.
I will-
So I would leave the experience part of it, and I would support either candidate that you
Okay.
I
guys
will,
decide.
I will tell you one thing about the first candidate that you probably don't know. Less than 7 days ago, she and her husband were in a catastrophic car accident in New Jersey.
No.
It's on YouTube, it was so bad, the driver who hit them, either he or his passenger or both were ejected and died. I happened to be at the conference she was going to and had to get her and her husband from the hospital. They walked away from the catastrophic incident. Today is her first full day back at work since the accident on May
In
17th.
New Jersey, so is this the one with the Bellingham select person who
No.
passed away in a town in New Jersey in an accident?
What, Bellingham,
So that's Sunday the 17th?
No, it was 2 weeks ago, I think.
No, that's 2 weeks. No, a guy was weaving in and out of traffic at over 100 miles an hour. He clipped the back of a pickup truck, sent him over a guardrail, down in 30 feet down an embankment.
send them down there?
They rolled 3 times. Their pickup truck, which is bigger than yours, was in 3 pieces. They had to be cut up on the jaws of life and med flighted to a trauma center. And this is their first full day back.
Oh, you
at
said
work.
that their passengers passed away?
No, the guy hit-
The guy hit him.
Either the driver or the passenger, both,
That's right.
and the accident's still not sealed, other than they've been declared not at fault.
What town? Where is
Tom's
that?
River, New Jersey, on the Garden State Parkway.
Oh, I hate that road, because it's only 2 lanes.
It was 3 there.
Really?
I know that because it took close to 8 hours to clear the accident scene.
And where were you?
I was at the conference in Atlantic City. I got a phone call from her to come get him at the hospital because they had no car. And I had to drive an hour and a half north to Neptune. You know the area to get there.
Yeah, I know, well,
But I just want to point out that you don't realize it, but I do, how composed she was on her first full day back at work.
oh, yeah.
And what she got, both she and her husband got severe concussions. But I will tell you, today is the first day I've seen her smile and carry on. She's been in total shock. That's a personal comment, but she didn't show that to anybody. And she probably wouldn't want you to know, but I'm just saying it to reflect her dedication. I asked her if she wanted to fill the interview tonight. But anyway, that said, I'll offer my thing. My personal belief is I'm looking for the most experienced person who's willing to commit to the longest term here. And I know both people personally, and I agree with you. Either one would make a great assessor. But if I'm sticking to what my long-term goal has been, and just so you know, Ken and I knew Jean was gonna go at some point.
Oh, for years.
So we've been, as the longest members, we have been studying options, planning, looking for the right person we could nudge to apply for probably the last 2 years, if not longer.
Oh, yeah.
And either one would be a fine assessor here. I have to tell you, though, I lean towards the first person tonight. I can tell you the commute has not bothered her one bit.
Yeah, well,
In fact, she's in before anybody else in our town hall every day.
um,
And what I would tell you is, if I stick to my guns on the best experienced person and someone willing to be here long term, I lean towards that person. I'm just saying that either candidate would be fine, but by my criteria, I would favor Shirley Bates.
okay.
But I want to hear what other people have
Sure.
to say.
The idea of hitting the pavement running on the day that she arrives, I think we're closer, with Sherry.
Yeah.
Because Sherry, PK, that's the name of the system. She's been working that for 30 years. She knows it inside and out.
She has enough to learn.
And I'll tell you that when I went from, when I got to Grafton, I had state camera. After state camera, we went to vision camera.
And you
After
went to
vision, we
Patriot.
went to Patriot. And I went to Patriot over here. So it's like, in 4 or 5 years, my head's spinning on how many systems do I have to learn?
And I will tell you,
That is a
So,
big,
so would your vote be pretty much towards Sherry?
I will tell you one other thing.
because of that right there.
In addition to salary, she's grossly underpaid and we cannot raise her. I've tried for 2 years.
Yeah,
I will tell you, she makes $1,000 more than our clerk. And the education level is like that. The other reason she's leaving is the software,
well, sure, I would leave because of that software too.
which is why most assessors leave.
So,
So, like I said, I would back either one.
Well,
I gotta decide. And
then I'm gonna make a motion.
Go ahead.
the only thing I would say though is, because Sherry does work for you, are you fine if he makes a motion, I second it, you abstain? So just to clarify anything with me, so I don't worry about it?
I had actually talked about, in my head, about abstaining, because quite honestly, when she gives notice and they say where she's going, I'm gonna have to explain my way out of why
But in case, you know what, if he does work for you, just in case there's any optics anywhere, I don't mind protecting you from that, and like I said, I'm gonna leave it up to you guys anyways, I took your opinions, I appreciate it.
Well,
Go with that, so.
what I wanna tell you is, I'm fine with Ken making a motion and you second it. I will join you in making it unanimous. I am not.
Well, then, what's this? I make a motion that, what's the word I want to say? That
Offer
we-
the position.
Yeah, okay, yeah, all right, so I want to offer the position to Sherry Bates for a principal assessor here in Mendon,
Do I hear a second?
Pending a background check too.
pending a background check.
Do I hear a second?
Second on that one.
Okay. Prior to adding my vote, I'd like to just say one thing.
Well, we're not voting yet.
Okay, well, we're discussing it.
Yep.
We have the ability since the Municipal Modernization Act
Yes,
to offer a contract.
yes.
I would like to propose the following. You have a contract with the town, do you not? Would you be willing to black out all relevant info, particularly you, and provide us with a copy of that
I
contract?
think you probably want to get, because mine's all legal, jump over the
Yeah, I think his.
You probably want to either get like the TAs, the past TA, which I could get, or
I have a contract, Ken does not.
maybe the treasurer collector, she has one, so we can.
Here's what I'd like to see in it.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Okay, before we vote, here's what I'd like to see in it, and you guys can react.
Well, first of all, we only talk about who would we want to hire. Second of all, we got to talk about is the
Okay.
financial thing.
All right, then
So let's not-
I'll make it a unanimous vote. But then I would like.
Oh, wait a minute, I didn't vote. I only made a motion,
Yeah, okay,
and he seconded. All those in favor?
okay, we have to do a vote by, name.
Name.
Because
Brian said yes.
Kersey, yes.
Rudden, yes, okay, now my ad. This is what I'd like to do, and it's based on my experience in Holliston. We have to set a salary at some point. What I would propose is we lower the salary by X amount for the first 3 months. And following successful 90-day completion, we go to the full salary.
Okay, what is the town rules in this town on probation?
1 year.
Yeah, that's what.
We can set our own in a contract,
No, it's 1 year for all town employees, usually probation.
okay?
I think I'll double check that when they ask town council.
But still,
I'm pretty sure it's.
Well, wait, let me make a comment about town council. Wait a minute, we're still waiting for town council to give us an opinion.
I call the chief council if you want, but I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah,
I can call the chief council too,
All
but
right,
I'm pretty sure
well,
it's.
first of all, I would like to call Ken Woodland. I'm not.
About what?
Ken Woodland is the legal advisor for the Department of Revenue Division of Local Services. Our attorney, Karis, was supposed to have called him to get his opinion on our suggestion we're in charge.
I guess she never did.
She has not yet, and it's been 3-4 weeks. And she told me at the town meeting she would call the week after the town meeting.
You spoke to her at the town meeting?
I walked up to her and introduced myself. Okay,
All
right, then, well, here's-
I want to get past all that.
okay, here's what I propose. If the town has a contract, and you can ask Jody candidly, if she wouldn't mind giving to us with her name and all those stuff like that.
Okay, he said he'd ask.
My view is the contract should do this. It should be for 3 years, which is the maximum allowed.
Yeah,
We need to set the salary in it. If it's a year probation, then we put in there's a year's probation, but we start at the full salary. There should be a clause in there that she's eligible for the same benefit package, vacation, sick leave as other non-union employees in the town.
Yeah, can I guess this first? All the other non-union employees in town really do work off of the,
Personnel policy.
Personnel-
Or contracts.
so if it's different than the personnel policy, whatever that is, then it's via the contract.
Yeah. But they're trying to go streamline, which they should. The non-union employee contract should match
Okay.
town policy.
Well, we want to have match the non-union employee contracts, including, and the other thing is that they get this, the person get the same annual raise that other non-union employees get. So if it's 2%, they get 2%, if it's 5%, they get
Well, I
5%,
don't know, it's in the contract.
Yeah, that's been pretty standard, that all non-union get
whatever they offer, right, but I want
The
that.
raises are not in your contract?
Mine are, but they're lower, and what it says is if the town does something different, they'll adjust it, yeah.
Okay.
But I set the standard by doing lower.
So what I went, like in Holliston, we all got 1.5% this year, my contract says 1.5% for next year. But for this year. So what I just want is to make sure the person has a contract. It spells out the same thing as standard for termination, which is boilerplate in this town.
Yep.
The lawyers have approved, I just don't want to create another controversy over what we're offering.
And I probably think it'd be a good idea, this is my suggestion, and we have Greg here now, he'll probably be a few more weeks, just whoever you designate to do, work with Greg at the same time, just in the sake of collaboration, working together, work with him at the same time to do everything.
What I'm just offering to, if you could give me a template contract, if you're willing to get that, or I'll get it from Greg,
Yeah.
I'm willing to draft it and give it to you guys. I have the time to fix it up and draft it, and if you want to run it by Greg, then fine, but I have the time to do it. But that we use that's the only thing I want to do is make sure, we do a contract. We did appoint tonight, so I don't really care what the selectmen here, the issue they had was because the current positions in the union, they got the opinion they were in charge. I have individually talked to the majority of the board of select members, and what all the members except the chair said to me is, we don't really care who appoints. We thought if we were the appointing authority, we'd take the recommendation. So we've already appointed, we've solved the issue.
Well, we haven't appointed yet. We've agreed to offer a job to somebody.
Subject to.
Subject to, and then it's also gonna be subject to them accepting whatever it is that we offer.
And then you do the appointment.
So,
Right, and the Jean has given me the start date to you and I, an email, her email saying she would be here tonight to you and I.
yeah,
Said, these are the days I'm out, these are the days. So what it looks like is the person would come on board, after Jean's week off, and then work right through to Jean leaves. The overlap is extremely important, David, as you know, because a new town, she has to know what's filed where, what the status of things are. Jean is professional, and candidly, Jean would be available to answer questions by phone. She's not disappearing from the face of the earth.
Yep.
But we want this person to start with enough knowledge to hit the ground running on day one.
That makes sense.
I'm not worried about a commute, candidly. She's beat me, and I come into the office close to 40 minutes earlier than start time every day, and she's always been there before me.
Good.
Including today, which is her first day back. She's always been willing to stay longer, on any day I've needed it. And candidly, we get out at 1 in return for working late Tuesday nights. We work till 1 on Fridays. There's been time when I've asked her to stay an hour or two, that we do something. And by the way, she's run the office in my absence.
Yeah.
And just so you know, I was out 3 weeks last summer with COVID, and I was out a week and a half with pneumonia this year. She did in fact run the office and
Yeah.
the employee.
Yeah, I don't worry about her actually being on time or.
I'm-
The only thing I even worry about with commutes is that over time, with some people, it gets tiring. And if something turns, they look out elsewhere just to have an easier commute. But we all know, no one likes to travel.
She mentioned.
And if she stays there 5, 6 years and because something comes close, well, we got 5, 6 years.
She's mentioned her fraternity, just so you know, as a Mason. Her husband's in the Masons, and she's 10 in the Order of the Eastern Star, and she's a big mucky muck in that.
I didn't know that.
She literally every week is traveling somewhere in the state
Yeah.
for an Eastern Star.
And some people like to travel. I mean, just the majority of people usually, because you lose, 2 hours a day.
Okay, the only last thing we have on the agenda is the reorg, and so I would like to make a motion to appoint Ken O'Brien as chair, from effective our next meet, after tonight, through his election.
Second,
Vote, Rudden, aye.
Thursday, I,
Aye.
And I'd also like to make a motion to elect David Kersey clerk
thanks.
for the current year.
Oh, yeah, second. Aye. Aye.
And can we have a motion to adjourn? That was unanimous also.
So made.
And I'll do the minutes for tonight.
Okay.
For Jane, and it runs KOB, you can second.
Second. Yeah, and, yeah, I can't believe it, jeez.
Okay,
When did I first become an assessor?
Should we shut this off? We tell Dan.
2009?
and David, you're gonna get the background check done?
Yep, we, I'll contact her for an application, because we need an application to go with it.